You know, I've been thinking. Hardcore has been around for a hot minute now, and while the core concept of the challenge hasn't changed, certain aspects have. And with these changes, some of the points to my original guide to hardcore are a bit outdated. So let's fix that. Hey guys and gals, and welcome to my updated guide to hardcore. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you're new to hardcore, or have heard about it and got interested in the challenge. Over the course of this video, I'm going to answer some questions, including what is the hardcore challenge, what are the rules, how do you participate, where do you play, as well as giving you some of my personal tips to help you along your journey. I'll try to make this as thorough as possible, so let's not waste any time and jump straight into this. So what is the hardcore challenge? The hardcore challenge is a classic WoW based leveling challenge that asks you to level from 1 to max following a modified solo self-found rule set, all without dying once. While the challenge was originally based on Iron Man, its differences set it apart as a unique challenge. It is designed to reinvigorate the leveling aspect of the game, testing both your personal skill and knowledge of the game as a player. In the years since its introduction, a large community has formed around the challenge. We've started a website, developed an add-on, and our actions have even influenced the game. If you played on the Season of Mastery servers, Soul of Iron and the Survivor buffs were influenced by both the Iron Man and hardcore challenges. So let's talk about the rule set. The biggest rule and the main challenge of this challenge is that you only have one life. Death equals delete, so play carefully and keep an eye on your health if you want to make it to the end. There's no restrictions on talents or professions though. Survival is the name of the game here, so normal cookie cutter talent specs may not be the best bet while leveling. Think about your playstyle and look at defensive talents that you may not normally take. And secondary professions are literal lifesavers, so take the time to invest in them. As I mentioned, the challenge follows a modified solo self-found rule set. If you're unaware of what solo self-found is, it means that you can't rely on other characters to obtain items or help you out in the open world. You have to do everything by yourself, you're not allowed to group up for quests or general grinding, and items can only be attained by completing quests, visiting vendors, looting, or crafting it yourself. Though solo self-found should be explanatory enough, I'll throw in the reminder that the use of the auction house or mailbox and trading with other players is not allowed. This includes trading conjured items such as mage food. Certain classes have abilities that let them cheat death, and following the spirit of the challenge, Warlock's Soulstone, Shaman's Ankh, and the Paladin's unofficial Bubble Hearth abilities are not allowed to be used. Light of a Loon Hearthing is also not allowed as it's basically the same as Bubble Hearth. World buffs, buffs from other players, and other players stepping in to help you out in a bind are allowed, but you aren't allowed to specifically ask for help or accept group invites. You are allowed to engage in open world PvP and the STV arena if you want to risk your life, but battlegrounds, on-a-bot gear, and ranking items are forbidden from use. The TPC store mount, the Reawakened Phase Hunter, is also not allowed to be used, and no using the auto unstock feature to teleport to major cities. As I mentioned earlier, we have an add-on and it is required. It's a useful add-on that blocks interaction with the auction house, mailbox, alerts the guild when somebody dies, warns you if you target a flagged enemy, or you're about to do something that might invalidate your run, and serves as a way to submit your run for completion. The add-on can be downloaded by going to classichc.net and clicking on Download Add-on in the top right. You are allowed to run dungeons in this challenge, but there are additional rules you have to follow. First, you can only run each dungeon one time. Make sure you have all the related quests, and here's hoping that you get the item that you want. Second, the other members of your group have to be playing hardcore characters as well. And third, the level range posted on the meeting stones is the allowed range in which you can enter the dungeon. In the rules channel of the Discord, as well as the rules page of the website, there's a list posted for all the dungeon levels. Most players will try to be at the maximum level allowed to ensure greater success of living, and if you gain a level during the run, pushing you past that range, you are allowed to continue. But be warned, if you have to leave the dungeon because the tank or healer died or any other reason, that was your run. You cannot go back in. Additionally, you can attempt duo and trio runs. While the hardcore challenge is primarily a solo challenge, you are allowed to attempt your runs in pairs or trios. But again, you'll be taking on additional rules. First, you'll need to start your adventure in the same starting zone. If you decide to play different races, don't worry. There are plenty of ways for you to meet up at level 1, but that is the requirement. You need to meet up without reaching level 2 or dying. Humans, dwarves, and gnomes can meet up in either Stormwind or Ironforge and then move to whichever starting zone you like. Night Elves and Draenei's can take the boat to Stormwind to meet with the other races, but if you're playing on Classic Era, Night Elves can meet up with the other races in Menethil and then head back or make the long swim down to Westfall together. Link below for the Menethil Mountain Pass. All Horde races can easily get to each other without leveling. Just meet up somewhere halfway and then head to whichever starting zone you like. The second rule is that you can only play when all players are online, and you must stay within the same zones as each other. So no going off to work on professions or long annoying class quests like Shaman Totems and Era while your partners are offline. This is arguably the hardest aspect of running duos and trios, as you need to coordinate not only the time frame you're playing, but what you're doing during that time. Kind of a pain when you need to go spend the day leveling, fishing, and cooking, and your partners want to go questing. Third, you are allowed to trade with duo and trio partners, but only these players. This is the biggest boon you have, so choose synergistic professions to really help yourself out. Lastly, since this is a no-death challenge, if one of your partners dies, then the run is over and all players must delete. There are two notable rules exemptions I need to mention. If your character dies due to a disconnect or as the result of griefing, you can appeal the death and may be allowed to continue on. But you must have recorded footage of said occurrence in order to appeal. Screenshots will not be accepted. While the add-on takes care of the verification process, we highly encourage you to record your gameplay as a preventive measure. If you're worried about taking up space, you can go live on YouTube and it will save the VODs there, or you can record locally and delete the video file after your play session if nothing went wrong. DC deaths are self-explanatory, but I'll quickly cover some examples of what counts as a grief and what doesn't. You're attacking a mechanical creature and an opposite faction stealth rogue uses a No-Mach Universal remote to control the enemy you're attacking. You get flagged and he kills you. That's a grief. You're grinding away at mobs and you target something that is already flagged. You ignore the warning from the add-on and attack, flagging yourself and getting killed by another player. Not a grief. You accept or turn in a quest and it flags you. Before the flag wears off, you run into another player and they kill you. Not a grief. You're doing some killing and you see a hunter has multiple mobs on them. They run straight at you and feign death, causing the pursuing mobs to aggro onto you and kill you. Grief. Same situation, but this time it's just another player somewhat near you who dies or manages to get away, and even though you think the mobs aren't that close, they still aggro onto you and kill you. Not a grief. So what's the main difference in these examples? Somebody intentionally trying to get you killed versus game knowledge. There are quests that flag you, quests that kill you. Some mobs have different aggro styles, and while you don't have to know all of this in the beginning, trial and error will teach you these things as you progress and try again. The other exemption is for duo and trios who have a druid in the party. The rules state that you need to stay in the same zones at all times, but druids need to go to Moonglade to accept and turn in essential class quests. So in this instance, you are allowed to be separated while the druid takes care of what they need to. I would suggest setting your hearth to where you are, or traveling to a major city before you head to Moonglade so you can quickly get back to your partners. The last thing I'll mention regarding the rules is that this is a player-created challenge. It's not an official game mode, and while the rules were set in place by somebody else, you are the one who enforces them on yourself. We simply ask that you play by the rules and be honest while participating in the community. You may look at a rule and say, "That's stupid, I'm not going to follow that one," and that's fine, but know that by doing so, you aren't playing the hardcore challenge, you're playing your own versions, and you will be asked to stay separate from the community. So hopefully I covered the rules well enough to get you the basic understanding of the challenge. So the question is, where do you play? The hardcore community promotes playing on official Classic servers, and we are on both Classic and Classic Era servers. For NA, head to Bloodsail Buccaneers. For the EU, hop onto Hydraxian Waterlords. And for Oceanic, Vermulus is the place to be. We occasionally like to hold events on fresh servers, so check with the Discord to see if anything is going on and where to play. Some players have asked about doing the challenge on private servers, and while we can't tell you what to do, we can say that for your run to be officially recognized in the community, it must be done on official Blizzard servers. So, you leveled from 1 to max following the rules and didn't die. Congratulations, you've completed the challenge. Your tune can now be played any way you want. Go off and join a normal guild where you can raid and PvP to your heart's content. But what if you want to double down and risk it all? For honor and glory. While the hardcore challenge started as just a leveling challenge, it has evolved to include endgame content where death still equals delete. After reaching max level, and if you so choose to take part, you'll join a new guild, and the rule set will change slightly for these players. You'll be allowed to group up in the open world, trade with your guildies, have access to the guild bank, and run multiple instances of the same dungeon for gear. Keep in mind that you're still mortal, so death still equals delete. If you're up for the challenge, you can check the Discord to find out where it's all happening. The hardcore challenge is a learning curve as much as it is a game mode. While I have seen some players come in and complete the challenge in one go, 99% of players won't. They'll take multiple runs, and even then, there will be close calls. So here's a few things to keep in mind while you progress through the challenge. Taking the time to carefully pull mobs, grind lower levels, or just ignore leveling for a bit to work on increasing your professions will have a considerable effect on your survivability. Don't take chances pulling groups of mods if you can pull solo stragglers. Sure, it'll take longer to level, but your chance of survival increases exponentially. Ask yourself a simple question. Would you rather take an extra hour to gain a single level, or lose all your progress because you pulled too many and died? Always be aware of what's around you. Spend time turning your camera around to see everything, especially when fighting mobs. No one wants to be fighting a tough enemy only to have another mob aggro from behind you that you didn't see. Playing with your camera zoomed out can really help you develop good spatial awareness. No matter how careful you are, something will happen eventually. You will find yourself in an unfavorable situation. Always have an escape plan in order to live to fight another day. If you need to wait a few minutes for a big life-saving cooldown or a potion to become available, then just sit and wait. If you need to run away, a good trick to try and master is jumping and turning your body so that way you're facing sideways while moving forward. You can use a mix of your forward and strafing keys to keep you moving in a straight line while keeping your body sideways, thus preventing getting dazed as much as possible. And remember to swivel your camera in order to keep an eye on everything around you while running away. No point in running if you just end up bumping into more mobs. While playing on the vanilla classic era servers, you'll notice that without the auction house available to you, upgrades will come much slower as you level. And even on classic servers, the initial 1 to 60 stretch doesn't really improve on this. This helps add difficulty to the challenge. A level 30 character who's had to rely on quests and mob drops for gear is going to be way underpowered compared to a level 30 character who uses the auction house to stay on top of their upgrades and runs the same dungeon until they get what they want. In some cases, you may not see a weapon upgrade for over 10 levels. And that's okay, it's par for the course. Once you understand that you're weaker than you would normally be, you start to assess situations differently, and you start making smarter plays, which help you survive. It's called a challenge for a reason, and as such, it's not for everyone. I've seen people come in and completely quit after 1 or 2 losses, and I've seen others who have lost 20 or 30 tunes before they finally make it. I myself have taken small or extended breaks from hardcore after losing multiple tunes in a row, but I love this challenge, so I keep coming back to it. You may not. If you're feeling frustrated, it's okay to step away for a bit. The community isn't going anywhere and will be here upon your return, should you choose. So that should cover everything. Let me know in the comments if you've played hardcore for a while or you're just jumping into it. Discord, website, and the relevant link videos will all be in the description below. And if you found this guide informative, remember to leave a like. And I'll see you soon.